The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's what Donald Trump claimed. Here's a country we protect. Here's a country we defend. Here's a country that's an ally and partner of the United States. Yet, we have a $50 billion automobile deficit with Japan right now. South Korea, we're keeping them safe and free with American troops away from home. $50 billion automobile trade deficit with that one country alone. Trump's followers hailed his economic warpath as some masterstroke of art of the deal, but let's be real. This wasn't about making better trade deals. It was about chest-thumping politics that nearly wrecked the global economy. When Trump finally backed off, his supporters said 75 countries came crawling back to negotiate. Maybe it was 25, maybe 55. Who knows? Because here's the truth. Trump blinked, and it wasn't because of better offers. It was because the bond market exploded, stocks tanked, and for a terrifying moment, it looked like he just dragged the US to the edge of a recession. The economists didn't hold back. They called it one of the most self-inflicted economic errors in modern American history. And they were right. Trump's policy wasn't built on strategy. It was driven by ego. Just look at the markets. Investors didn't run to US treasuries as usual because of the fear that China, holding over $760 billion in US debt, might dump it. And just like that, borrowing costs skyrocketed. The American economy started teetering. Even the Singaporean Prime Minister's speech went viral, warning of seismic shifts in the global order. And sure enough, the ripples turned to waves. The EU, Asia, and even Canada, all longtime allies, are now questioning whether the United States can still be trusted. Let's break it down. Europe, America's second largest trading partner, was slapped with 25% tariffs on steel, aluminum, and car parts. A further 20% tariff followed. Europe, which had followed the US lead on Chinese EVs and 5G restrictions, felt betrayed. Macron called the move brutal. Ursula von der Leyen said she felt let down by our oldest ally. The EU responded with $23 billion in retaliatory tariffs, but the damage was already done. Transatlantic trust cracked. Trump's policies didn't just hit rivals, they punished allies. Japan, 26% tariff South Korea, 24% tariff Australia, caught in the crossfire. Even Hyundai, which pledged $20 billion in US investment, was slapped. Japan's PM all but groveled, praising Trump for surviving an assassination attempt, pledging $1 trillion in investments, and promising to buy more natural gas from the US. Trump still went ahead with the tariffs. The result, Japan, South Korea, and China, historic rivals, sat down for trilateral trade talks for the first time in 5 years. They're now working on joint trade agreements and semiconductor partnerships. Trump, in trying to isolate China, has pushed America's allies toward it. Southeast Asia? Trump slapped massive tariffs here too. Vietnam, 46%, Thailand, 36%, Indonesia, 32%, Philippines, 17%. These were the very countries the US pointed to as alternatives to China for supply chains. French shoring, more like burning bridges. Trump's approach now pushes them back toward Beijing, and China isn't wasting time. President Xi is visiting Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia. Trade talks are heating up. China is offering zero tariffs to African nations, while the US imposes 10 to 30% tariffs on the poorest countries on earth. Canada went all in on the US strategy, banned Huawei, imposed 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, matched US policies on steel, tech, and national security. Now, Canada is saying it's done. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the era of deep US-Canada economic integration is over. He's hit back with 25% reciprocal tariffs on American imports and says Canada will now build alliances that don't include the US. Trump hasn't just broken trade agreements, he's torn apart alliances, suspended aid to Ukraine, calling Zelensky a dictator, cast doubt on NATO, saying if allies don't pay, they're on their own. Europe heard the message, America under Trump can't be counted on. Even US partners like India are staying low, watching as the two global giants slug it out. In the end, what has Trump's trade crusade achieved? A shattered global alliance system, China, Japan, and South Korea inching closer together, US allies, questioning whether Washington is stable enough to follow retaliatory tariffs from Canada, Europe, and Asia. Trump says he's in the driver's seat. But with the US isolated and China gaining ground, it sure looks like that steering wheel is spinning out of control. So what do you think? Has Trump made America stronger or more alone than ever before? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.